The lights don't flicker, they disappear. The refrigerator stops humming. Your Wi-Fi dies. Your phone still shows a full battery, but every call fails. You walk to the window, expecting your neighborhood to react. Instead, there's silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that tells you something enormous just happened. You don't know it yet, but you're living through the first minutes of a true grid-down event. And the worst part isn't losing electricity. It's discovering how much of modern life disappears with it, because the real danger hasn't even arrived yet. You tell yourself it's probably a local outage, maybe a transformer, maybe a storm. You check social media. Nothing loads. You try another app. Still nothing. Then you notice something strange. No distant traffic. No air conditioners. No aircraft overhead. The neighborhood sounds like someone pressed pause. You open the refrigerator. Cold air escapes. For now. You don't realize you're looking at a countdown. Every minute the power stays off, food preservation becomes harder. Milk, meat, medicine. Each one has an invisible timer. Then you remember the gas station. You grab your keys. Half the neighborhood has the same idea. Cars form lines before the station even opens. But it never does. The pumps need electricity. Credit card systems need networks. Even people carrying cash leave empty-handed. Modern infrastructure doesn't fail one piece at a time. It fails together. And that changes everything. By afternoon, rumors spread faster than facts. Someone says it's a cyber attack. Someone else blames an EMP. Others insist power will return before dinner. Nobody actually knows. That's what makes uncertainty dangerous. When information disappears, imagination takes over. People make decisions based on fear instead of evidence. Situational awareness becomes more valuable than supplies. Your phone battery drops to 40%. You stop checking it every minute, not because you want to, because you're saving every percentage for an emergency communication that may never come. As evening falls, another surprise arrives. Darkness. Not city darkness. Real darkness. No traffic lights. No storefronts. No glowing windows. The stars suddenly look brighter than you've ever seen them. Beautiful. Until you realize what that darkness is hiding. Tomorrow changes everything. Most people think food is the first crisis. It isn't. It's water. You turn on the faucet. The pressure is weaker. By afternoon, nothing. Water treatment plants rely on critical infrastructure. Pumps need electricity. Purification systems need chemicals. Distribution networks need constant monitoring. Without them, clean water becomes a limited resource. Now, every bottle in your house feels different. You stop drinking because you're thirsty. You start drinking because you're calculating. Neighbors begin asking each other if anyone has extra water. Some share. Others quietly lie. Not because they're cruel, because resource depletion changes how people think. Every sip now has a future attached to it, and that future keeps shrinking. But hunger is about to catch up. The grocery store shelves empty long before people stop arriving. Fresh food disappears first, then canned goods, then anything edible. Supply chain disruption doesn't take months. It starts within hours. Trucks stop moving. Warehouses stop shipping. Payment systems stop processing. Stores become empty buildings with bright signs that no longer mean anything. At home, you notice something else changing. The people. Arguments become louder. Patience becomes shorter. Sleep becomes harder. Decision fatigue creeps into every conversation. Should you use another candle? Should you eat today or save it? Should you leave the neighborhood or stay? Every answer creates another question, and the longer the grid stays down, the more dangerous those questions become. Because the greatest survival challenge isn't hunger, it's judgment. You hear shouting outside. Two neighbors are fighting over a portable generator. Not because they hate each other, because desperation rewrites priorities. The rules everyone assumed would always exist begin to disappear. Police response slows. Emergency services become overwhelmed. Hospitals struggle without reliable power. Medication becomes scarce. People who depended on daily treatment face impossible choices. This is where disaster preparedness stops being about gear and starts becoming about people. Who do you trust? Who trusts you? Mutual aid becomes the difference between surviving and simply lasting a little longer. The strongest communities aren't always the best supplied. They're the ones that cooperate before panic wins. But not everyone understands that. And that's only the beginning. The city feels older, quieter, smaller. Without constant deliveries, neighborhoods become isolated islands. Travel becomes risky. Fuel is nearly impossible to replace. Every trip has consequences. People begin walking farther for water. Others search abandoned buildings for supplies. Some never come back. You learn something uncomfortable. Operational security isn't about hiding from imaginary enemies. It's about not advertising what little you still have. Bright lights at night, loud generators, visible food. They attract attention. Attention becomes a resource you cannot afford. Survival psychology changes too. Days blend together. Without clocks, work schedules, or notifications, time feels different. Hope becomes harder to measure. And that's exactly when people make their biggest mistakes. Because exhaustion convinces you that shortcuts are safe. They're usually not. But then comes the decision no one wants. You hear that another town still has limited power. It's 2 days away on foot. Some families are leaving tomorrow. They ask if you'll come. If you stay, you keep the shelter you know, but resources continue shrinking. If you leave, you risk everything on information that might not even be true. This is what real emergencies look like. Not obvious answers, only imperfect choices. Risk assessment becomes your most important survival skill. Waiting can be deadly. Moving can be worse. You realize survival isn't about making perfect decisions. It's about making the least dangerous one with incomplete information. And that's far harder than movies ever admit. Because by now, you've discovered something unexpected. The grid wasn't the only thing holding society together. People often imagine that civilization ends with explosions. It doesn't. Sometimes it ends quietly. One failed delivery, one empty faucet, one silent phone, one ordinary morning that never becomes ordinary again. A long-term infrastructure collapse isn't just the loss of electricity. It's the loss of systems you never noticed because they always worked. Water, communication, transportation, healthcare, food, trust. Real emergency preparedness isn't collecting the most equipment. It's building habits before they're tested. Learning to stay calm when everyone else rushes. Protecting your judgment when fear wants to take control. Understanding that psychological resilience can matter as much as any supply in your home. Because in every disaster, people don't fail all at once. They fail one decision at a time. The people who survive aren't always the strongest. They aren't always the fastest. They're usually the ones who recognize reality before everyone else does, and adapt before everyone else has to. So before you close this video, ask yourself one question. If the power didn't come back tomorrow, what would you wish you had done today?